Governor Akinwumi Ambode passed the 2016 budget, tagged the People's Budget, it left no one in doubt that indeed the budget will not only be implemented faithfully, but also ensure that it works in the best interest of Lagosians. Though an improvement of 26% over the budgets of 2014 and 2015 respectively, the increase will enable the administration focus on the present challenges in the state. The reality is that without the collaboration of the citizens of the state, implementation of the budget can be challenging, considering the dwindling crude oil price which has sprung up economic challenges and has affected federal allocation. Hence, the budget has to be driven by internally generated revenue, IGR. With this, it is expected that the Lagos Internal Revenue Service, the LIRS, will generate 300 billion naira, which is equivalent to 78% of the total IGR of Lagos. While the state government through the Lagos Internal Revenue Services does not intend to introduce new taxes, but it has become pertinent to bring more citizens into the tax net. As much as it requires the government's will for the budget to have a 100% performance of the electoral promises made to the people, a lot needs to be done in order to reorientate the people on the importance of paying taxes, as this will go a long way towards getting the anticipated income, as it is believed that if all taxable adults in the state pay their taxes, the state might not even need to depend on federal allocation. Obviously, there is no country or state that can achieve its objectives of governance without funding. Every leader who has a vision needs funding to achieve his or her objectives, and payment of taxes is the primary source of funds for the government. Taxation is so important that in the parts of the world where it is well embedded in the political ecosystem, it plays a major part in politics. With Mr. Olufolarin Ogunsanwo as the chairman of the Lagos Internal Revenue Services, it is not business as usual for tax defaulters, because Lagos State has always been held up as a model in tax administration, hence the need to continually uphold and improve on this.
Let's look at the 2016 budget. It was recently proposed by the HE, and it's been tagged the People's Budget.
Yes.
So now, how will the people be involved in this? What do we mean by the People's Budget?
The budget is about the people because of the contents. It aims at reaching out to the exact things that will impact on the lives of the individuals. Let's look at transportation, for instance. The transport situation in Lagos is being perceived to be chaotic. The security situation too is being seen to, there is no clue to it. But when His Excellency, the Executive Governor, took over the mantle of leadership, sometimes in December, he launched some equipments that will assist the Rapid Response Squad in combating security and crime in the state. And you will discover that all through that period of the festive season, the issue of crime and all the other things that are usually rampant during the festive period was reduced to the barest minimum. In fact, statistics shows that crime went down by almost 70% as a result of launching of those equipment. So that's one issue that impacts, because security is very, very key to the lives of the citizens of the state. So it wasn't taken lightly and it impacts directly on them. Also take the issue of the 25 billion naira employment endowment fund that was also launched recently. That is aimed at assisting the small and medium scale enterprises in achieving their aim of financing their businesses. This is expected to create wealth and create more employment for the teeming population. Lagos is estimated to have over 20 million people, and quite a large number of that group happens to be youths who are young school leavers that are not yet employed. So that project as well, that program, is also aimed at assisting the government in creating employment to the citizenry. And then if you also look at the area of traffic congestion as well, it might interest the people of Lagos to note that His Excellency has graciously approved that about 1,300 last mile officials and CAI should be employed, which has, direct impact on this budget that is being, we are talking about 2016 budget for the people. That in itself is aimed at reducing the traffic congestion in Lagos, as well as creating employment as well. So all these things that I've mentioned, including social and infrastructural development, like if you look at the issue of the man hours that is being spent also in traffic, basically because of traffic gridlock, part of what is being done now is to create flyovers. So all these things are things that the citizens are yearning for and that are being created by His Excellency. You also remember the ambulance service that was launched as well. And all these things are done through taxpayers' money. So it is the whole aggregate of all these that makes the budget to be the one for the people and that will have direct impact on their individual lives.
Still on the budget, on the 2016 budget, 55% of the budget is to be funded through IGR. Now that's, if you look at the breakdown, the calculations is quite a lot. Anyway, now how does this agency plan to go about this?
Over the years, the immediate past administration in LIRS has embarked on various programs. They've embarked on different things, which includes advocacy, enlightenment. We've engaged the taxpayers to let them understand the reason they must pay their taxes. We have also introduced various means of payment and ease of filing their returns. We have equipped our tax stations and all these things over the years. But now, we are taking it a step further. We discovered that as at now, out of the population of 20 million people that are in Lagos, only about 5 million people are in the tax net. And we expect that out of this 20 million, about between 8.5 to 9 million people are expected to be in the tax bracket. However, our record shows that we have less than 5 million people that are in the tax net, which means we have a shortfall of about 4 million people that are not paying taxes. And our further research reveals that this particular set of people are the people from the informal sector. When I mean informal sector, I'm referring to those that are not in the formal employment. People that are self-employed, people that are operating from the markets, artisans, lawyers, accountants, quantity surveyors, pharmacists, bureau de change operators, and so on and so forth. Then the third category are people that are engaged in services, like the security men, and so on and so forth. This category of people, they'll just collect their salaries without paying anything back to the government. For instance, it is expected that every individual should file their returns in accordance with the Section 41 of the Personal Income Tax Act as amended. And this is expected to be done within the first 90 days for those that are self-employed, and those that are in employment, it should be done within the first 30 days. That's the position of the law, which we are poised to ensuring that people comply with. And there are infractions. I mean, if there is infractions, there are penalties for not doing so. For instance, for a corporate body, if you fail to file your returns as required by the law, the fine is 500,000 naira. And for individuals, the fine is 50,000 naira. It also carries some measure of imprisonment or both. So people should also fulfill their own side of the social contract by voluntarily complying with the tax laws. And it is in doing this that they will assist the Lagos Central Revenue Service to achieve the target that have been set.
Talking about the informal sector,
yes,
that's the nannies, the people who are self-employed, the people that sell. Now, for a country that we don't have up-to-date statistics of our people, what each person does, and all. Now, don't you think this is where LASRA comes in? Do you work with LASRA?
Yes. One thing that is key in terms of, when we talk about revenue generation, it's about data, accurate data, timeliness of it as well. We, on our part, one of the things that we want to do is that we are currently embarking on the automation of all our processes. And the automation of the processes also includes collaboration with the Lagos State Resident Registration Agency, as well as other agencies of government, with a view to compiling all the necessary data on the individuals or the people that are supposed to be in the tax bracket, so that we will use that data to be able to reach out to those that are yet to be brought into the tax net. Of course, we are collaborating with LASRA and will continue to do so until we have a very, very robust database.
Let's look at the economic challenges.
Yes.
It's Nigeria at large. It's not peculiar to Lagos State alone. And so that means, obviously, allocation from the central will definitely go down based on the dwindling oil price and the recently passed budgets at the central. What are we looking at in Lagos State to reduce our reliance on allocation from the central?
Basically, the major revenue item that brings the highest revenue to a place like Lagos State is our pay-as-you-earn. And because of this issue of dwindling oil price, as well as the high exchange rate, it has affected the performance of all the oil companies, which happens to be the cash cow for Lagos. And by extension, the manufacturing industries, the commerce and industries sector as well, they are actually witnessing a challenging time. On our part, like we have mentioned, Lagos State being a pace setter in terms of revenue generation, in terms of employment generation, and so on and so forth, is also feeling the pinch. But the good news is that because of the re-engineering and refocusing that this new administration in LRS is doing, we are going to ensure that the state is not adversely affected. As we have seen, the budget, it's on its own. It's about over 70% of the IGR is expected to come internally, and not the way we are focusing, the way we are looking at it is that we want to presume that nothing will come for us from the federal purse. And as such, all our efforts are geared towards improving the internally generated revenue of the state, as well as refocusing and rejigging the revenue collection machinery to be able to face this challenge. Like I told you earlier, we are improving the lot of our staff, we are retraining them, we are reviewing our work processes with a view to making it more efficient and more proactive, more than ever before. We are also embarking on massive campaign to enlighten the citizen that it is now time for everyone to contribute their quota to the purse of the revenue purse of Lagos State in order for them to continue to enjoy what they have been enjoying. It is indeed going to be a challenging time, but it is our belief that we will be able to meet and even surpass our target.
Over time, some people have complained of double taxation, that they believe the state collects, the local government, so many things. Even you find some hotels complaining.
Yeah.
You know, you have consumption tax, you have about this and all. Can you enlighten us about this? Do we actually have double taxation in Lagos State?
When people talk about double taxation, I tend to disagree. The reason being that there's what we call double taxation and there's what we call multiplicity of taxes. So both are kind of being misconstrued. Nigeria being a federal system, running a federal system of government, we have 3 tiers of government. And each tier of government have their own taxes and levies that they collect. Another issue is that means at the federal level, they have their own tax that they collect. At the state level, we have what we collect. And at the local government level, we also have what we collect. But one thing that is certain is that people at times even call some of these things taxes, or where indeed they are levies. For instance, if somebody wants to have a party and they want to block the road to inconvenience others, there's what the local government charge as what they call merriment tax or whatever, merriment levy, road closure and merriment levy. So how does that constitute to a tax? It is not. Because you want to kind of block the road and inconvenience others, the local government has been empowered to actually collect that levy, and people misconstrue it to be a tax. Also, another one is when your user charges, like the one that the local government collects on advert and so on and so forth. Of course, if you don't have a signboard or a signpost, nobody will charge you the tax. But because you have that, definitely they will collect it, and it is a levy, it is not a tax. When we talk about double taxation, it is when the same source of income is being taxed by different revenue authorities. For instance, somebody that resides in Lagos, and then the other person, the same person is being taxed in Lagos as well as maybe in another state within the federation on the same source of income. That is what we can now call double taxation. And in the real sense of it, in accordance with the law, residence determines where a person pays his or her tax. But when somebody lives in Lagos, for instance, and maybe because he has one transaction or the other to carry out in Ogun State, and then Ogun State government is now saying you have to pay tax to me, when in the real sense that person has paid tax to the Lagos State government where he or she resides, then that is a clear case of double taxation, because tax is now being charged on the same source of income from two different revenue authorities. So that's the distinction between, so there is the issue of double taxation. It arises when the same source of income is being taxed by two revenue authorities. There is the issue of user charges, which is being misconstrued as taxation. And then there's also the issue of the third one, which I mentioned earlier, levy, which is as per use. Though there are, the federal government and even the states, we have a body called the Joint Tax Board. We meet regularly to review and to reappraise this situation of multiplicity of taxes. Any tax or any levy that is not in the approved list of collection, Act 21 of 1998 as amended, should be queried, because those are the only ones that are recognized under the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So anybody that is charging any tax or levy or rate that is outside that, of course, it should be challenged, and then it should be reported to the relevant authorities that can now look into it with a view to, resolving such matters. But it is a very, very serious matter, even to the federal government, and even in Lagos State. With the Lagos State government, we don't encourage that. We don't subscribe to it, that people should pay, because taxation is a matter of law. For any tax to be collected, there must be a corresponding law that should back it up. So if anybody comes to you and comes to tell you that you are supposed to pay so tax, they should also be able to enlighten you or let you have the relevant law that gives them the authority to collect such tax. I think with that, if people know their rights, then there won't be anything like somebody coming to collect the taxes that are illegal.
Apart from the projects
Yes.
to be carried out by the state governments, so which is very important that we pay tax. What are the other? Why is it really actually important to pay taxes? For me, I look at it that means, well, if there's anything wrong, I can talk. It's my right. I pay. So that apart from the funding of the budget and all, why is it important to pay tax?
To start with, people are quick to complain that, the government is not doing this, the government is not doing that, the government is supposed to take care of this and that, The schools are not, you don't have enough schools. The hospitals are not well equipped. Then our roads are bad. That the transport system is not as it ought to be, it's not operating optimally. Forgetting that all these things that they have mentioned cost the government's money. And it is in complying and it is in their paying these taxes that all these facilities and all these services can be rendered by government. It is their government. We are in democracy now. The government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The people is about the people. The money is not government's money. It is their money. But the government is just there to appropriate it adequately, to ensure that it is spent optimally for the good of the people. So, and then, if people complain that, the money is not being well spent, if you don't contribute to the purse, then you don't have the moral standing to ask for or to be requesting for accountability, or to be requesting that, there must be transparency in this thing. So when you do it, that's why in better climes, in developed countries, people don't do things with impunity, because the people that are in government are accountable to them. So if anybody does anything that is unethical, they have the right. They can even take the person to court. But because people don't actually comply here, because they don't contribute, some people are not even interested in how the money is being spent. But to who the person that wears the shoes knows where it pinches. So people that are actually paying, they are actually now coming out to hold the government accountable as to how and when their money is being paid and where the money is going into. So there is the statutory aspect, the legal aspect of it, and there's also the moral part of it. But by the time you put the two together, it still boils down to people voluntarily complying and paying their taxes as and when due.
What should the people look forward to if by December 2016? How will you assure Lagosians that come December 2016, this came in, this is how we have used it, and then two, how do you assure the people on transparency?
The first part of it is that I want to assure you that Lagosians are in for the best of times, because on our part, we are joining hands with this new administration of His Excellency Governor Akiyomi Ambode to ensure that the budget as it has been proposed, come December, these Lagosians will look back and see that indeed the governor is God sent. As on our part, we are ready to ensure that all the revenue that he needs to fulfill this promise that he has made, the ones he made during his campaign and the one that he has also made during the presentation of this budget, are fulfilled by ensuring that there is constant revenue flow to the purse of the government in order to be able to implement all the projects adequately. And you can believe me that, I want you to note that all these things that have been mentioned, by the time we have all these things in place, Lagosians, of course, will be living a life that is better than the one they have lived in the past, in terms of security, in terms of traffic control, in terms of creation of employment, in terms of foreign direct investment, in terms of social amenities and infrastructural development. This is what this budget aims at doing, and that's what we are poised to, ensuring that the revenue inflow comes to the government. And then the second one is we are poised to running a revenue agency, a contemporary one, a proactive one, the revenue agency that will be second to none in the whole of Africa, whereby all the staffs will be well trained. We will treat our customers as king. We have zero tolerance for corruption. We want everything, we do everything in the public domain. Our books are open for scrutiny by anybody, and we will ensure that whatever that we generate goes straight, unfortunately enough, the revenue goes straight to the purse of the government. Ours is just to raise the assessment. The payment process is there, the payment procedure is there. We don't interfere, we don't have anything to do with the revenue of the government. It goes straight to the account as prescribed by the Ministry of Finance. We do direct, all payments to the government go straight to the bank for which they collect receipts from. So I think with all this, the issue of transparency is not in doubt.
It is believed that people of Lagos who pay taxes will get to that point, whereby they will understand and see what the taxes are doing for them in Lagos State, the benefits of the taxes collected, and how government is spending their money with transparency. From roads to security, to providing good healthcare system amongst others, Lagosians, we can only make the job easier for the government by being committed to paying our taxes as at when due.